Hey everyone, you're about to listen to episode 53 of the Twin Suns podcast. This week we were honored to be joined by RiotGmajor, aka Mark. He is the design lead for the newest set of Legends of Runeterra. He brought us Shurima and a whole lot more. We really hope you enjoyed digging into this episode, hearing all about the design process of some of our favorite cards and some of our favorite champs. As always, we're brought to you by RuneterraCCG.com, a site filled with a ton of articles, a ton of guides, and everything else you could be looking for if you play Legends of Runeterra. Check out their newly made deck builder as well. It is being constantly updated. All of the new cards are in there. All of the deck codes are functioning fully, and it's just been an absolute pleasure getting to work with those guys over the years. So please check those out if you haven't already. And guys, I'll see you at the end of this podcast, but please enjoy the show. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Twin Suns podcast, episode 53. With me again today is Mike. How's it going, Mike? It's been a while.
Hey guys.
Yeah, well, we're going to skip right over you. More importantly, we have RiotGmajor, aka Mark. He is the lead designer for Shurima and everything that's coming with it. But Mark, welcome to the show. I appreciate you taking your time out of the day to join us here.
Hi, thanks for having me. Yeah, I'm happy to be here. Yeah, it's the first time I've been on a lore podcast, so it's exciting.
Yeah, man, it's so awesome that you guys do this type of stuff. I mean, for real, we've had a couple members of the community of your dev team there, and it's crazy that you guys take the time out. I appreciate it. You can see the passion coming from you guys when you talk about your projects, so it's awesome. But for anyone who doesn't know, can you give us a quick rundown of what your position at Riot actually is and what it entails?
Sure, yeah. I'm currently a design manager, but yeah, I mean, my work is kind of a mix of like management and design work. Basically, so I'm a game designer. I do a mix of content, which is things like cards, and I also do some systems work sometimes. So I'm like working on like a labs team right now to work on social stuff. And then as a manager, I also do more management-y stuff, like I help people with their career progress and stuff like that. So it's kind of a mix of all the above. But yeah, I mean, I've been at Riot for a really long time. I used to work on League of Legends in QA, and then I moved to design, and then I moved to lore, and so yeah, I've kind of worked on a pretty big variety of projects at this point. So yeah.
That's awesome.
Nice. Yeah. Do you of all those aspects, do you have one that you kind of like favor more? Is it like the content, or is it the systems, or management?
It's tough because I think I'm someone who really likes variety. It's like once I've been on like a kind of project for like a couple years, I'm always like I want to try something different. And I like learning new things, and also I like making sort of a mark, so to like an impact on it. So I
Mm-hmm.
kind of like getting to like soak up all the knowledge and then like try to see what improvement I can make, and then sort of go on to the next thing. So there's a little of that going on right now where it's like I worked on Empires of the Ascendant for a couple years. That was really cool getting to work on it's the first time I worked on a big set from start to finish as like the lead, and so that was really exciting. But also like after that, I'm like, mode sounds sweet because I haven't gotten to work on modes really, so I'm gonna go do that now. And so yeah, it's kind of I don't know, it's kind of variety. I think I like doing all of it.
Yeah, that I agree.
Yeah.
Spice of life right there, variety. As far
Yeah.
as like variety, tell us a little bit of, like your gaming history. Like what did you kind of grow up on or anything, and then also what's like your card game history specifically?
Sure, yeah. I grew up playing all sorts of games. I think it's funny because like my parents were like always like trying to limit video game and TV time, but I don't know. I wonder if that like made me want it more or something in the long run. Um, yeah, gosh. I mean, I played um, I'm trying to think of like what's the word like things worth talking about. I mean, obviously like well, I don't know, obviously, but like Game Boy, N64, PS1, PS2.
Mm-hmm.
I sort of eventually got more into PC gaming and like TF2 and League of Legends and stuff, and that's sort of how I sort of pivoted more towards like working on League of Legends. Um, for card games, I would say it started with Pokemon actually, like in
Nice.
elementary school, like the sort of
Nice.
first generation Pokemon. Yeah, and I think I was uh, very few of my friends actually played the game, but I actually like I played it, and all the it's kind of a tragedy when you when you play OG Pokemon because you learn that like the good cards aren't the Pokemon, it's everything else
Yep.
basically. Or maybe they fixed that by now, I don't know, but it was like yeah, Bill's the best card in the game.
Yeah, right.
Um, yeah, and then like yeah, Magic was obviously I got like really into Magic and like Prophecies, like Mercadian Masks block, which I have like a huge amount of nostalgia over, and I think I think is underrated by people in terms of like quality and fun. I think I'm someone just like I love the color pie and like the colors of Magic, and so to me, I'm like things like the avatars and the winds and the seals. I'm like that's when colors felt like colors. I loved that, and so
Right,
I actually
right.
thought it was sweet. Anyways, I'm rambling about nostalgia crap, but and then let's see. I mean, honestly, I didn't play Magic very heavily after that. After like middle school, the main game I got into as an adult would be actually Netrunner, Android Netrunner. I
Oh,
played a
nice.
good
Yeah, yeah.
amount. Yeah.
It's a good game.
Yeah, I really liked the sort of business model, LCG model, and like the
Yeah,
kind of the mind games of that, and the deck building. I thought was really fun.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Nice, nice. That's awesome. Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
glad we got Pokemon said once. 'Cause we asked this question to everybody, and everyone's Magic or Yu-Gi-Oh. So I was like
Yeah.
happy to hear Pokemon come through one
Hell
time.
yeah. Yeah.
But Netrunner's quite a good. No one's ever said Netrunner either. So I was a
Yeah,
big
it's
fan
good.
of all their LCGs. The Lord of the Rings one was a blast. The Star Wars one was a blast.
Yeah.
So yeah, they're a good company too.
R.I.P. Yeah.
Good times. All right, solid answers right there. All right, as far as these are just some introductory questions before we get to the stuff everyone actually wants to hear about with full blown Shurima nonsense. We're on day 2 of Shurima, so everyone's freaking out. But up
Yeah.
until this
Yeah.
point, what's been your go-to like lore deck, like your number one?
I like playing hipster stupid things. I also really like playing like all in kind of plays. And so like to me, my favorite card is Dawn and Dusk, like bar none. I'm all
Nice.
about Dawn and Dusk. I'm like when it's like I'll play like I don't know, like the student duo kind of like Zed Hecarim cloning BS. Like I don't know. I'm just like
Yep.
basically I wanna hit like turn 6 and all in some stupid play that like is probably gonna get countered and then like win the 40% of the time it works and just I don't know. I'm all for that high moment. Which I think creeped into the set a little bit. Like if you play like Boomerang Blade or something, it's like this is really all.
Yeah.
Like if this
Yeah.
like Siphoning Strike, it's like the game might end based off how this resolves basically. So
Yeah, I just
yeah,
just
that's what
went
I'm
for one of
into.
those earlier today with a siphoning strike,
Yeah.
and I was on the 60% loss side, but it was fun.
Hell yeah, yeah. I also like ephemeral cheese in general. Yeah, I think ephemeral is really fun to play with. So yeah.
Absolutely, that's my stuff. Mike, you want the next one?
Yeah. So, with this new release, what was your favorite part about working on it?
Favorite part about working on it. That's a good question. I think I mean I think the part that like was most like wow this is crazy was just like basically when actually all the things start coming together from like a production standpoint. It's like you spend so long with just these like blank like even when we're playtesting them in game, it's like the cards have no art, it's all temp names, there's nothing there, no animations, and then like a few weeks will go by where like everyone's like actually starts merging in all the work that's been going in all the assets, and suddenly like it's a real set. And it's like really cool because you've been working on it for so long. So I feel like that when I think back, like that's really like I don't know. I feel like that's like the high moment initially, and then obviously like you kind of get to relive that when everyone sees it and you get to see everyone reacting to it for the first time. I think it's sort of like that sort of like everything coming to life. I think is the part that I find most exciting.
That like first release trailer comes out and you see everyone freak out a little bit. That's
Oh
the
yeah,
moment.
yeah,
And you guys started
yeah. I mean,
strong.
and the new level ups are just nuts. So
Oh,
it's like,
dude,
oh, sorry, go
Yes.
ahead. Yeah,
insane,
yeah,
insanity. Yeah, that was definitely the talk of the town. You guys started with Renekton, and his was might be my favorite,
oh
and I was
yeah,
like, holy crap, man.
yeah. Renekton I think is just like they just nailed it so much in so many ways, and like the level up animations, but also just like the way he like slams the board and like rips it and
Oh
stuff. It
yeah,
just like it feels so like visceral and
Yeah.
angry, and I'm just like they
yeah,
just nailed it
Vicious.
so much.
oh yeah,
It's
yeah.
Yeah,
As
perfect.
soon as I
yeah,
play like Exhaust and just drag one of their champ, I'm just like, this is the best feeling. I'm so Renekton right now. I just feel
yeah,
like Renekton.
yeah.
I didn't
Yeah.
even know it was his level up animation
Oh
when I
yeah, that
saw
was
the
hilarious.
video. I was talking to Shane, we were talking about it, and he was like, what do you like the level up animation?" I was like, "I didn't really pay attention to it." He's like, "How did you not?" I was like, "Well, I saw the video cinematics," and he's like, "No, no, that's it."
That is the level up.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I call them level up cinematics now because they feel
yeah.
like full like
Yeah.
cinematic. Yeah,
You can
They've
laugh.
upgraded from
wow.
animations to
Yeah.
cinematics.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're
Totally.
so sweet. So we're gonna go through. We've done this with Sean 3 times, so we're gonna go through and kind of take what he kind of brought to the show was just kind of going through all the champions and just kind of talking about some of the goals for bringing those champions. You know, what did they want to come into the game and add to the game, but also the goals of like transferring the actual champion from its league kit to lore, because I know that's kind of a lot of the design process there, and then just the design process in general. So we're just going to go through. We're going to start with the non-Shuriman champions first, in honor of Mikey, who's our Demacian fanboy. We'll go with Jarvan to start. So can you just speak
Okay.
on Jarvan for a couple minutes for us?
Sure, yeah. I mean, yeah, Jarvan's design was very inspired by his League of Legends gameplay, of course, like the flag and drag, like EQ combo he does in League, and his ultimate were obviously like, we try to brainstorm ways we could translate that as literally as possible. And so I think he came together fairly early, fairly fast in that I think we were excited for lines resembling Cataclysm fairly early on. Like it was fun to get those attack triggers and like force what feels like a real one-on-one fight.
Yeah.
Um, and then a little while later, you know, the auto summon sort of came together. I think the harder part for Jarvan was actually getting the supporting cards to feel right. It's a little awkward because like challenge granting is already, there's already plenty of that in Demacia. There's already plenty of rally and stuff, and so like finding those like little ways we can get people to build around him more, where it's like the sort of gallant rider kind of text was it was a little less obvious how to land on that. And so yeah, but I think ultimately like a lot of Jarvan was basically like jump in dot champion, and so yeah, we
Yeah.
just went all in on that, and um, yeah, hopefully Jarvan fans feel like he was pretty genuine there.
Yeah,
Mike,
for
you feel?
sure. I
Yeah.
I was gonna ask like, how was it working him into the elites package? Like, did you guys have any issues like this is gonna be too strong because of if we give him this like to be an elite, is this gonna overdo it? Are we underdoing it? Did that kind of like was there ever a thought to not make him an elite?
Um, I think early on that was on the table. I don't. Yeah, I think. I mean, elite as a card package, I think of as like such a uh maybe it's not, but I think of it as kind of like a mainline sort of low risk thing to just sort of add more stuff to.
Mm-hmm.
I think the early explorations where things got spicier was early on. We actually were playing with Shurima having elites in its like military card package,
Oh
like the sort
wow.
of sand soldier stuff, which was cool. But also like basically the more that actually worked, the more it just kind of watered down what it meant to be elite, because it's like
Mm-hmm.
sand soldiers, yeah, they don't play like your mid-range Demacia deck, and they feel pretty different. And so we ended
Right.
up backing away from that and being like, no, it's about like the sort of two main branches that Jarvan lands in are like, he gets into fights, challenger, can play pair with Renekton, etc. And then also you can pivot instead of just building in an elite package, and those can kind of mix but don't have to. And I think that worked out. Hopefully, I mean I'm not a balance expert, but we'll see. Yeah, yeah.
You just throw him out in the pond, see how he does. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, basically. At some point, you have to just ship it and see what happens. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, no, he's a blast. I mean, he's pretty crazy. So you said initially the design aspect of him popping from your hand in the battle wasn't there.
Yeah, that wasn't. Yeah, that particular part of the mechanic. Yeah, that was fairly new.
Hmm.
I think like Cataclysm. I think we landed on earlier, and it was like, hey, can we also find a way to get the EQ combo in here, and him just not being a Cataclysm spell machine and get more in the fight directly. So yeah, um, that one was also kind of hard to tune, I think, because like it's such a big swing, and
Yeah.
yeah, hopefully it's balanced. Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, huge swing. This is already super interesting to me because from previously talking to Sean, and I'm bringing this up a ton, but we got to talk to him 3 times, so I like feel like I know him now. He didn't know league lore or league combos like that. Like you just saying, like, oh, his EQs, like that's a new aspect to this because you actually know the kit based on working on that game as well. So this is
Mm-hmm.
really interesting to hear that aspect of it coming straight in from Jarvan. And I've never played Jarvan because I don't play any Demacian champions because just to spite Mikey, that's just what I do. Sorry, Mike.
Okay.
Because they're all taken up by me, so
Yeah.
you don't get a chance to play them.
When you say don't get a chance to play, do you mean in lore or league?
In league, yeah.
Both.
No,
Oh,
no.
okay, okay, gotcha.
Lore is my ground. He can have league though, but yeah.
Oh,
That's
okay,
fine.
Yeah,
okay, yeah,
yeah, yeah.
yeah. I mean, he's yeah, I feel like he's kind of a classic, almost, I wouldn't say meme champ, but yeah, just he's the, he shouts Demacia and dunks on people, and he forces fights no
Yeah.
one wanted to be forced, and so,
Yes.
yeah,
Yeah, and then he
that's the
puts his
fantasy.
barrier around you, and then you just sit in this pit and die. Yeah.
Exactly, yeah,
Even if you're on his team, you'll wait.
yeah, he's helping. Yeah.
My gosh. Okay, well, I feel like on the other side of that is Lysandra, because she is just so. I mean, she just does everything. When I had to read this card like 4 times to fully grasp what was happening, I was like, this is so much that's going on, which I love. And also somehow you nailed like a really weird league kit. So you want to talk through the process of that for a little bit?
Sure, yeah. Lysandra was, yeah, her card design was very tricky. I think, yeah, so I mean, I don't know where to start. Like, yeah, I mean, really early on, like, mechanics resembling Countdown, like that sort of design space, of like sort of incubated threat, or incubated value
Mm-hmm.
was something we were excited about from really early on. And Lysandra being that sort of like, kind of schemer of frozen, monsters and apocalypses and whatnot. We felt like that was a really good fit. And so pretty early on, we were like, okay, like, Shurima is probably going to be a bit more, um, a bit lower to the ground on its countdown cards,
Hmm.
and Lysandra can be more of like the kind of long term, like, you're going to need to be in a deck that likes the high end of the mana curve and likes slowing the game down a lot, and she'll be in charge of that, and so that direction we got locked in pretty early, but it was actually pretty hard to navigate because Lysandra herself, isn't someone we thought of as like, she's not going to be the frozen threat, and we didn't want her to be Talia. And in
Hmm.
terms of like the sort of mechanical space we were working in, like we,
Yeah.
we wanted Shurima to feel like they were more masters of landmarks than Freljord. Um, and because Freljord already feels kind of like masters of like mana ramp and stuff like that.
Right.
So that was an awkward balancing act where it's like she's kind of part of this landmark combo, but she's not the landmark herself, and also she's not a landmark master. So like, what is her actual role in this whole equation?
Right.
And then also like, if she's just doing the sort of landmark incubation threat, like, is she going to really feel true to the character? And so that's where you kind of see this. There's kind of a combination of packages here where it's like, she kind of fits in the countdown deck, and then also we were really hyped for her to have that Watcher moment, and then also like she should probably do some frost magic. So we sort of worked in the kind of level 2 text in there, and
Yeah.
I think, yeah, I'm curious how that lands because it's like there's a lot going on there.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I think I think we in design are maybe more nervous than a typical player about like some of the bloat and complexity that that might grow over time. So yeah, we might have gone overboard. I don't know. We'll see. But yeah, there's a lot of revs to end up on that spot. So
Yeah,
yeah,
the Watcher broke the internet for a couple days. Like Twitter was pretty nuts after the Watcher
yeah,
dropped. It was
yeah, yeah.
some
I
fun
think it's
times.
when people read the text, they're like excited to break that and see what they can do.
Yeah.
So hopefully that breaks in good ways and not
Yeah.
not bad ways. We'll see. Yeah.
Mike, how did you feel about? To me, I got a little bit. I got the vibe of Lysandra's kit for sure, but then I also got the vibe of kind of like when Nautilus dropped. It was very like, okay, this is nothing like that. This is like all focused on the lore of Nautilus, right? Just the sea monster vibe. Did you get that vibe, Mike, from like the? I don't know Lysandra's lore enough, but from the Frozen Thralls and the Watchers and all that.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. Because, like he said, she is this like scheming woman of secrets and like ill omens of the future to come and things like that. So like this kid and the text, like it plays very well to like the warnings and stuff that she always speaks of or what's to
Hmm.
come. And like the whole fun is like making that thing come, aka the Watcher. Like it
Yeah,
feels
yeah,
very much to her lore, and just like I'm sitting here staring at all the like art for the cards, and I'm like, this is so cool. I always get lost in the art, but it does very much play to her lore, and you definitely get that feeling of ill omens to come.
yeah,
You
yeah.
you might even do that when you queue into her and you see her on the other side. You feel on the clock.
Yeah, as soon
Yeah.
as the thing
Yeah.
comes down.
Hopefully. Yeah.
So when is the Nexus going to get regeneration? No, I'm kidding.
That
That's
was
the.
actually I've written that text before. I was trying to remember where I wrote it. I think I wrote it on like a really early version of one of the expensive celestial spells. But that was like so long ago. I mean, the celestial spells changed so much over time.
Right.
So yeah,
Hmm.
yeah.
That's
Um,
fantastic. Yeah, that's as
but
soon
really early
as
on, we were just like, what's crazy stuff? I mean, because we're trying to cost like
yeah,
10 cost non-collectible spells. And we're just like,
Hmm.
I mean, I
yeah,
don't
Yeah,
know.
go wild.
Yeah.
you can
Yeah.
write whatever you want. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was so funny when someone was like, "Yeah, but I guarantee you, in May, your Nexus is gonna have Overwhelm and it's gonna have 10 attack." Just like, all right, I'm not sure where this is coming from, but yeah,
That could be sweet. All
yeah,
right. I mean, we'll see.
you gotta do, what you gotta do. All right, we're gonna move into my favorite region here, Shadow Isles. Talk about Kindred for a second. I feel
Mhm.
like the art of this one is personally my favorite, and just the direction this champion went in is wild. I feel like you nailed all the different aspects of her, with Lambs or Spite even as making it in as one of her spells. Really sweet. So can you just talk about the direction for her for a little bit?
Yeah, Kindred definitely took some revs too.
Hmm.
I was really excited for Kindred because, partially just from League, I think they're just so aesthetically cool. I just love like when you're playing them, just like the way it feels to listen to them talk and move around and stuff. It just like feels so like ethereal and sort of mystical
Yeah,
and
really.
I don't know, yeah. But pretty early on, we were pretty excited for Nasus in the set, and so we're like, well, uh, I think there's a lot of tonal and mechanical overlap between Kindred and Nasus,
Hmm.
and so that would be a really cool sort of hook that we can build into the set. And that that took some revs. I think early on we tried to do some other hooks that kind of got a little weird. We were basically like more embracing like Kindred is good at killing vulnerable things,
Hmm.
which did pair with Nasus, but also was like I think too specific and didn't really play as well with the rest of Shadow Isles. Things like I have a one drop with Deadly or Death Touch or whatever. It's like, oh yeah, that plays really well with vulnerable. That's cool. Um, or like Kindred has not Fury but something like that.
Right,
But
right.
like yeah, over time we were like, well, I think it's going to be probably more fun here if you can actually play with the rest of the Shadow Isles package. I think also like leaning into vulnerable was like starting to get like this is too much overlap with like Renekton basically, and so we kind of like went back and we're like, hey, let's do a package that's actually can use kill spells, and then pretty quickly found that like we need to let you kill allies or this is going to be really degenerate. So yeah, it took some iterations there to finally reach like where the mechanic landed, and then eventually yeah. So um, at that point, the word slay did not exist yet, but after a
Oh
little
well.
while, every time we wrote when you kill an enemy or for every or sorry when you kill a unit or for every unit you've killed, people always ask what does you kill actually include, and so we're like, well, all right, I guess we need to give them a tool to fly out because they keep asking.
Yeah,
Usually when we explain it, they're like, that makes sense, but we kept having to explain it, and we're like, okay, we just need to put it in there. So we made a vocab keyword basically for that.
that's awesome. So she was. It's cool to hear like that. There's obviously some pairings that come out and they're meant for each other. It's cool to hear Kindred and Nasus were meant for each other. But I've already seen Kindred dominate me in 3 different decks, so she's definitely not
Mm-hmm.
stuck in that pairing, which is good.
Yep.
Yeah, she's. I mean, she might be my favorite non-Shuriman champion from this. She's sweet. I think you guys nailed her. I think people are pretty terrified of her already too. Did you lose her today, Mike?
I've lost to a lot of people today. I don't really want to get into that
Oh,
subject
okay,
right
okay.
now, if we could. But I just love that like the way you explained the thought process behind it, and everything that you tried with her. I love that you ended up at she needs to be able to like killing your own units because what is more like identifiable or recognizable about Shadow Isles than killing your own stuff to maybe
Yeah,
get
right.
better stuff or stronger units and things like that. So I think that the way that you guys like landed with her, I think it's probably the best fit that you guys could have done from what you've at least told me you tried in iterations.
Yeah, there's also yeah, it's both like it plays better with Shadow Isles, and also I think like you end up having more agency over how your deck develops throughout the game when you can do it on your own tools, and also the enemy is less miserable if all of your strategy is kill. Yeah, yeah. Like uh, there's been various times in that set where like a champion was like, "Hey, they're gonna really twist the, like Ravenous Flock dot champion," and it was just like it's not actually fun for either side because the enemy realizes they don't get to play anything, and then they stop playing anything, and then you don't get to target anything because they stop playing anything. And you're like, oh, this sucks for everybody. We should stop doing this. So that's why we started leaning into a lot more like you can sacrifice units. You can, there's rights in Shurima now that let you sacrifice allies in the Shurima half, even if it's not quite as good as Shadow Isles. And yeah, hopefully that leads to a more healthy pattern.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I've played quite a few games with her today, even in with Nasus, with Aphelios, and she fits all over the place. She's one of the most flexible. Really digging it. I did want to talk about all the new keywords as we go. You covered Slay. I didn't really consider that like a full blown new keyword, but you covered that, so that's good to hear. Why did we get that? Because people kept asking what does kill mean, and people are still slightly confused, but everyone's starting to get it after day 2 now, which is good. Um, so the next champion that is not Shuriman is Leblanc, and she did come with a brand new keyword. So if you can talk about Leblanc for a second, and then include reputation at some point in there, would be great.
Yeah. Yeah, uh LeBlanc was also fairly tricky. I mean, we I think she had to go through some similar learnings that I mentioned just now with like Kindred, where it was like ravenous.champ kind of designs, where it's like, hey, like I'm really good at killing things I've already messed with, or like, if I play one spell, my next spell will kill something really reliably or something. Like a lot of these patterns were like kind of fun on paper, and then you play them and it's kind of degenerate in a lot of ways. Uh, and I think there's also a similar issue where it's like being too departing too heavily from the sort of region tool set can make it so like it's not fun to deck build with them anymore. And so
Right.
we were kind of trying to navigate this space of like, hey, like what's a mechanic that Noxus and Shurima could both do that would fit a more glass cannon kind of character. We were also trending towards uh, like her and Sivir both kind of being glass cannon spaces and just general damage spaces, and what can we do with that.
Nice.
For a while, I think we leaned more heavily into the direct like stockpile mimics, stockpile damage spells, and then unload from hand.
Hmm.
But yeah, I mean that obviously has a bunch of game health problems that can be pretty degenerate. But ultimately, like when we kind of revisit and we're like, hey, what are these two regions actually going to be good at, and what can you deck build around? And ideally, what can be a bit more aggressive, I think we're excited for. And so, um, yeah, we basically landed on like, hey, these are champions that will play early and dish out a lot of damage. And for LeBlanc, we were kind of trying to lean into like that kind of lane bully, like aggressive assassin profile with very very tall and low stats on attack and health
Hmm.
and quick attack, obviously. Um, and then the intent was like we're gonna make you go through some hoops that Noxus is hopefully pretty good at going through in the case of like heavy strikes, and then we're gonna reward you for it in hopefully ways that feel very like flavorful and thematic for LeBlanc. And so like the intent is basically um, this plays with the Trifarian looking cards, but actually gets to do what Trifarians want to do,
Hmm.
unlike Trifarian Assessor, which is like sit on some Yetis until you can afford Assessor or something. Like like the
Yeah.
timing
Right.
is kind of weird, but in this one it's like no, you can play your 2-drop five power unit and hit with it now, and just keep doing that, and then like on round I don't know 6-ish, you'll turn on and then load a big spell combo for the finale, and hopefully that feels cool. And so that was basically the intent there.
Hmm.
The actual mechanic of reputation definitely had a lot of iterations. Like there's various times where it was more like Sivir level up and more like LeBlanc level up and various
Yeah.
things like that. We eventually landed on like having a history counter for strikes was a good like play incentive in the sense that you actually got to be aggressive and feel good about it and feel good about these like 5-1s and 5-2s and stuff like that.
Right.
And so yeah, all that kind of landed as like this is going to be the damage, the fast and repeated damage like heavy strike keyword, and then yeah, and then we named it reputation, sort of
Nice.
for the sort of theme reasons, and then yeah, that's basically where that landed. Uh, yeah, I know. I know some people's first impressions of LeBlanc were pretty mixed or negative, but
Yeah.
yeah, hopefully they get the player, and hopefully she plays better than she reads. Yeah, I guess we'll see, and we'll keep an eye on her.
Yeah.
So
From our community standpoint, everyone's very happily surprised that she's playing much better than they initially reacted to her. Um, I think it's cool. I think that the champion herself might not play like the exact kit, but you have to actually work for it a little bit. And then once you get Mimic going, once you get the Black Rose Spy going, then you're like, oh, I have 3 LeBlancs, and it's like, okay, yep, now this feels a little bit more like LeBlanc. You get the Mystic Shot. I forget the name of that card as well, but the
Sigil of
Reputation.
Malice, yeah,
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 yep.
yeah,
So you get that
yeah.
going. It really starts to all click together, and I think you landed on a great mechanic with Reputation. It makes incentive even to just all right. Well, my 5-2, I wouldn't normally want to trade this early, but I need to get my Reputation strike in. So all right, let me take that swing now, and it'll one tick toward that. I think it worked out perfectly. I like it, and I haven't tried her myself, but I've gone against her, and it does feel scary, very quickly scary.
Nice.
Yeah, I was surprised. Mike, you want
Yeah.
to?
Well, good.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think everything came across really well with her. I don't know, Mike. Did you want to add anything to LeBlanc before we move on to the sand region here?
I really want to craft her. It just seems really fun that you're rewarding like aggression, but not in the way of like the typical aggro deck that's like small, quick, get a bunch of units out and ramp down your throat. This is kind of like do big hits that you wouldn't normally feel okay doing, and getting rewarded for that, and having like this like spell unit engine is just so fun to me, and like like I'm sitting here staring at the cards again, and like it does nail LeBlanc so well with all the mimics and all the crazy spells, and just the glass cannon metaphor was spot on. Like you saying that made me realize like, oh yeah, this is meant to entirely be a vulnerable, damage dealing, hard hitting like slugger, and I
Yeah,
love
yeah.
it.
Thanks. Appreciate that. Yeah.
Yeah, if she gets caught
Yeah,
out, she dies in league, right? So that's kind of
yeah.
kind of what they're
Yeah.
going for. Yeah, you probably can't confirm this because you're not like the narrative lead or anything, but people think the Black Rose Spy is actually LeBlanc. Is there anything you want to say about that? Is
Um,
LeBlanc LeBlanc?
I don't know if I want to confirm or deny anything here. I mean, you can hear what she says when she levels up.
Yeah,
She says she is everyone. So
it's perfect. I
yeah,
love it. People were
I
like,
don't
"This
want to say
isn't
anything.
LeBlanc."
I mean, it could be, man. She's very
Yeah.
like
We got to
from
dig
the
into the
shadows,
conspiracy theories.
manipulative kind of
See?
person. So like, could very, we
Yeah.
don't know. Let's leave it a mystery.
Yeah, we'll dive into some conspiracy theories after this episode and go into that.
I do think like for me, people like some of the people's negative reaction to Blanc, I think, is a lesson in like I think actually already, even though the game is so young, I think for a lot of people the standards have already gone up for people.
Yeah,
Where I was like, when you're designing LeBlanc and like the champions that are out are like, Darius and Katarina, and like that's your example of like what champs look like. It's like, yeah, I mean I mean nothing particularly is unusual I think about her, but like at this point like some of the more like grand champions that are like doing like Riven style stuff at this point it's like it's like a champ that looks like Darius probably looks kind of antiquated already in a game that's only 1 year old
yeah, that's a good
and
point.
yeah, I don't know, it's interesting I mean for her we were like like I think we were hoping she would play as a card package overall, like with her supporting cards, and hopefully that comes through. Yeah, so yeah, I don't know, I mean
Yeah.
there's probably lessons there.
No, that's a good point. I mean, especially because we just came off of Aphelios, which he's a wall of text
Yeah.
himself, and then Riven and
Yeah.
Zoe were before that. So yeah, it's a really good point. But she still has
Yeah.
plenty of interaction that's extremely interesting, and reputation in general requires a very interesting deck building curve. Like it's a really weird requirement to actually get that going every turn or every game. So yeah, she adds a lot of complexity. It's just maybe not on the surface. So
Right.
hopefully
Yeah.
Mhm.
it shines through for people.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess before we jump into just the Shurima champions, so you got told you got to bring Shurima to the game. As a whole, that region, what kind of goals did you have? Like, what did Shurima want to do that stands out from all the other regions?
Um, just at like a high level, or like are you talking mechanics in particular, or just all the
Yeah,
above?
just mechanics, like as far as
Hmm.
like region identity, really.
Right. I mean, yeah. So when we're starting out on a region and a set, I think we tend to try to like identify some major thematic pillars. And for Shurima, I usually break it down into like three major buckets. One is time and inevitability, and I think you can see where that sort of translated into like countdown and predict, and also like kind of gods of death and all that stuff.
Yeah, right.
Um, and a lot of that was inspired by like basically Shrima's narrative itself, how it's like kind of this ancient forgotten empire that's like kind of been waiting beneath the sands and now it's coming back up. And so
Right.
hopefully playing some of those landmarks feels kind of like going through that story yourself. Um, yeah, the next pillar was the glory of the ascended. We were really excited for Shrima to be a region that's like uh, very champ focused. It in some cases literally worships its champions, and so cards like Golden Ambassador were very much sort of in that mindset of like,
Yeah.
hey, like we can tutor champs, we buff champs, more than followers. We and so and yeah, uh, there's like uh, Siphoning Strike definitely was also sort of in that mindset of like, how do we make this feel like a Shuriman strike effect and not just another, whatever like variant of it. And then we eventually landed on the champ. It used to be the unit that strikes is buffed, and that was still like not quite feeling right. And then finally we're like, oh no, it's going to buff champs everywhere, and that both
Hmm.
played much better with Nasus and also I think felt much more Shuriman at that point.
Hmm.
Yeah, that's like glory to the champions
Yeah,
was definitely a big theme for us.
for sure.
And then basically the third one was the desert itself. The desert's just it's really it's just a wild place. Like if you see a lot of the art, there's just like on like Renekton units and Talia units, they're just like it's both like gorgeous landscapes and like sand waterfalls and all these cool things
Yeah,
to
really.
surf on, and then it's also like the Mad Max kind of like dog eat dog kind of brutal place. And I think um uh yeah, I hope we get to release more of the concept art actually, because like a lot of the imagery in my head, I was just like the concept art was so cool that I hope we get to share that soon.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I think a lot of like the more aggressive mechanics, like really doubling down on vulnerable and like kind of withering people and reducing their power and stuff. That
Yeah.
was more coming from that place of like this is the desert. It should feel kind of suffocating in some ways, but if you can learn to thrive in it and make do in other ways, that's also I think part of why we actually went with like a sort of Freljord is a pro mana region and Shurima is kind of an anti mana region. It's like we
Yeah.
don't need mana here.
Huh.
We have like followers to use and countdowns to use and stuff, and so it's like yeah we're sort of like we'll make do with other resources that other people wouldn't know how to survive in kind of thing.
That's actually awesome. Yeah, I never thought of the you know, that
Yeah,
actual juxtaposition between
juxtaposition.
desert and yeah, desert and ice. So I mean, we'll jump right into Talia, and she really brings in one of the I think that third pillar, the desert itself. I mean, she's a landmark based champion, and there is at least 15 or so landmarks in this set already. So I guess yeah, just talk on Talia real quick, and when it became the point where you said, we're going to focus her all on landmarks, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, Celia actually, I think she came in fairly early because, yeah, basically, the design space that eventually was named Countdown, that was pretty early on in the set. We were talking about like landmarks being a big thing, and looking at the Shuriman unit list, like there's an Earth Mage in there, and so that sounds like a good fit to me. And yeah, I was also happy because like, when you start with the Ascended champions, you're sort of in this like very uh I don't know. I think it's a very like I don't know if angsty or macho is the word, but it's not a very human kind of looking roster when you start with the Ascended, and so like
Yeah.
finding ways to like kind of get a bit more variety in there. I think we were happy for, and so Tulia was a great fit for both, in that she was a great
Hmm.
mechanical fit. She brought a lot to the desert theme, and also I think she brought just like variety to like the champ roster of Shurima, basically, as far as we were shipping. And for her, I mean, like yeah, the two main notes for us was like uh, she is like the champion that's best at manipulating landmarks as sort of the Stoneweaver Earth Mage, and
Yeah.
then also like we wanted to hit some of her basically her rock throwing that she does in League. I mean, in League, like her Q is really her bread and butter, like just like pummel the enemy with damage, and so uh, yeah, I don't know. I think her design overall actually came together fairly early on in the set development process. Of like, yeah, she builds really well with landmarks, and your big reward for playing her with landmarks is she gets to not literally throw the landmarks, but throw Earth at your opponents for a lot of damage. And so yeah.
Yeah. Is she where Countdown started? I mean, I know you said that was one of the pillars, really, the inevitability, but is this where Countdown kind of came in? I know there's a lot of landmarks around her that kind of involve that keyword.
Um, I think countdown. I think the countdown mechanic space we started exploring before we had started exploring Talia.
Okay.
Um, I mean, I think the first countdown card, or one of the first, was actually the Sun Disk itself.
Oh,
We sort of
nice.
knew that um, that would be the ultimate landmark to kind of be restored out of the sands, and so
Yeah.
I mean, the actual mechanics on the Sun Disk changed wildly throughout development. But yeah, like basically, we were like the Sun Disk is such an iconic landmark that I think we really wanted to lean into that and have a good idea of what we want to do with it, and Countdown sort of accompanied that, and then a bunch of other things accompanied that, and and yeah, Talia was just a really natural fit there. I mean, a lot of times the early process there's a lot of like it's not chicken and egg, but it's very like a theme will inspire a mechanic, will inspire a champ, will inspire a theme, and kind of bounces around a lot. So you're sort of looking for opportunities to like find things that hook into each other. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Mike, do you have anything else to add there, or you want to jump to the next champ?
I was just gonna ask about like with Talia and Shurima, it seems like the pool of landmarks is kind of becoming a little bit oversaturated towards Shurima just having so many. Was there any like fears of having too many that you're kind of like we want to maybe tone these back? Like you've got a lot of two cost like landmarks that might just be token landmarks that come out. Was there a worry about maybe their power might be too strong, too weak, or whatever? Like how did you guys kind of uh, determine are we overdoing this or not with that?
Yeah. I mean, landmark volume in general was an area that we were pretty sensitive to because of its impact on board slots, and part of I mean, I think you could feel it where like if you go to like if you try to make a landmark deck and you play like Talia Lysandra and you include max landmarks, you're probably going to find your back row is actually too full to actually
Right.
use all your landmarks. And so yeah, it's definitely been an area we were keeping an eye on. Uh, I mean, a couple strategies we adopted was basically like keeping landmarks temporary, obviously with countdown themselves, countdown itself, and in the case of like the sort of trap landmark that Talia uses, or gosh, I can't remember. I'm blanking on the name all of a sudden, but yeah. Um, so yeah, keeping them short-lived, and basically like keeping the emphasis on units, I think was still valuable to us. And so like landmarks that when they uh, I was about to say unbury when they finish their countdown, they like are giving you units or giving you unit buffing things or things like that. Like
Yeah.
basically trying to encourage people to build them with some units or think of them as like almost like this is a unit in an egg. So like
Hmm.
think of it that way.
Right.
And I think also um, it's a bit TBD. I mean, I think like how landmarks play in our game is still a space that I think is not entirely settled. And hopefully, countdown is a good tool for us as design to like make them not clutter the board so much and maybe
Yeah.
have more of a narrative arc when they're in the on the board. And so hopefully, I mean, the hope is that we explore that more in other regions and other sets in the future. So it doesn't feel like it's just Shurima doing it so much, or Shurima and Lysandra. Um, but uh, um, yeah, I'm trying to think of what other things. We also did some stuff where it's like where we tried to push like making fights happen, and that also helps like clear the board out, like things like vulnerable, and sort of glass cannon units that want to just wail on enemies for reputation reasons or something. It was like keeping the combat rows moving so that it's not just like a bunch of like would-be blockers sitting in the back row cluttering things up, and there's no room for landmarks and vice versa. We were also keeping an eye on that.
Yeah. Yeah, I
But
think it was a great work because I feel like we had an idea of what landmarks did, and they were all really just kind of all right. It's going to sit here and it's going to have a static effect, but then even just obviously the countdown effect of them going away is really important for board space, but also roiling sands just killing itself to apply the effect instantly is another really cool mechanic that okay it's a landmark but it's only going to be on your board for a second, right, and then it's moving through, and I love that aspect of it. I think it really opens up that design space really well. um, so we got one more champion that's not ascended. We got Sivir as well. Do you want to talk a little bit about Sivir and her obvious little bit of pairing that went with LeBlanc?
Yeah. Yeah. Sivir was uh I mean, like, yeah, like Sivir. I think when we thought about Sivir from League of Legends, I think a lot of what came to mind was her Ricochet and Boomerang Blade. And champions like that can be pretty tough because they feel so tactical and mechanically defined that it's hard to like really explore that. I think yeah, she went through some similar journeys in design that like LeBlanc went through, and eventually landing on damage counting and damage mattering and big strikes mattering. The particular twist that she was trying to provide to that was leaning more on she's finding these landmarks that she's like kind of using to buff herself and her allies, and her kind of ultimate is a bit more teamworky and a bit more or sorry her ultimate in league, which we try to translate into her level 2 to sort of get her into a bit more of a sort of teamwork leadership. She's like captain of the mercenary kind of vibe.
Nice. Yeah.
And yeah, I'm trying to think of like what else. I mean, she's also, she in League of Legends, she is the champ with the skill spell shield, and so we're like, okay, great, like a reliable fighter with a spell shield
Yeah.
that can lead her team with her ultimate. Like, Yeah, it's sort of just I think she actually didn't take as much work as LeBlanc in that sense, although a lot of their work was sort of the combined effort of how do we make damage matter in a way that's not totally degenerate.
Yeah.
And that's where that landed.
I didn't even put together that she's like finding those landmarks. Like that just clicked now as you said that. So that's actually really sweet. You know, the lost relics and stuff. I'm
Yeah.
gonna move us along, Mike, since we are running in pretty deep here. So much to talk about. But we got the three ascended
Sorry.
champions next. If you want to just take those, you can take them one at a time. If you want to go Nasus first, but I mean, I'm sure these three ascended champions all getting to level 3 were designed relatively close together.
Yeah, sort of. Yeah. I mean, like level 3, uh, I mean, very early on, we were really excited to be like the Ascended Champions via something involving the Sun Disk can achieve level 3. We were really excited for that. It's sort of like this, I don't know, sort of Super Saiyan kind of feeling thing to do, and so we were really
Yeah.
excited for that. The actual execution was pretty difficult to figure out though, because it's like, well, how does this pair with non-Ascended champions in other regions, and how much do you have to build your deck around it, and is it going to be several decks or one deck, and um, like how many specific cards do you need to include to make this work? So that
Yeah.
was pretty gnarly. I would say we the strategy we ended up with was something like this should feel like a very Shuriman deck to do. If this is if this ends up being a card that you 3x and then you go into a different region, that sounded pretty like a case we wanted to avoid. And so
Hmm.
really embracing like this is for Shurimans by Shurimans and it's going to do something for Ascended Champions in particular. We kind of leaned into that. Also like gave us some breathing room in terms of like if this massive artifact does things other than like basically, sorry, I sort of skipped a step explaining like the Sun Disk could do lots of crazy things, and at some points it did things like level up Ascendeds, level up any champion, give all units massive buffs, like all sorts of stuff.
Oh wow.
But we eventually were like, no, we're gonna like focus this on Shurima decks and Ascended in particular, because like basically if we don't balance around that, then that might actually be not the best case, and then we'll probably run into some problems there. Um, for each individual ascended champion, we basically were like, your level 1 and 2 should feel fully functional and fully work as a champion. It should not feel like your power budget is having to be spread across 3 levels compared to another champion. So the intent is like, hey, you can build Kindred in a kill deck, or Azir in a token deck, or Renekton in in an aggressive attack deck, and not feel weak in any way. And then we're going to basically carve out this sort of separate space of like mono decks that can play with Ascended Champions and the Sun Disk. And the level 3 is going to be almost like the kind of catastrophe card of that situation, where it's like this is when you get to go Super Saiyan and everything goes crazy. And we're going to make it so the level 3s are so strong as a category of their own over level 2s that it almost doesn't matter if you've optimized for any of them in particular. Like if you can get any of them to level 3, you can probably end the game with them. And so that's basically the design space that we were working with. And it took a long time to figure out like the line of text of like when you level an Ascended Champion, advanced me 10. It took for a while we were trying a bunch of other deck building hooks, like, oh, you need to include a lot of like cards that advance the Sun Disk, or you need to include I don't know, it would like count how many Shurimans you've played or something. And a lot of them made it so it felt like it was very hard to find a mechanic that fit all 3 Ascended Champions equally. And then finally we just landed on, oh, just an Ascended Champion levels up. That's, I mean, they all do that. They all level. And
Right.
so that was like I think that was a good breakthrough on that. And so um, my hope is that it feels like any Ascended Champion can be a part of that deck, and you can sort of build around any of them. But it's still kind of mostly confined to the sort of Shuriman space, where it's not going to get exploited too much by other regions. That's where we ended up landing.
Hmm.
And hopefully the champions feel like their level 2s are real level 2s, and you can play a real deck without hitting level 3 on them.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mike, what's your favorite out of the three ascendeds, level 3s?
It's a toss up between Azir and Renekton.
Yeah.
Like those two, I loved them when I played League. So then getting to see these level ups and the crazy things that they do now in lore is just so exciting. And the fact that I love that you guys are keeping the Sun Disk to Shurima. Like that is their icon.
Yeah.
It's always been their identifying thing. And it even opens it up for you guys in the future with Shurima with new champions. Because there's still other ascendants in the roster that you could look at and say,
Mm-hmm.
hey, if we have a cool idea, who fits that bill in the league roster that can be their level 3 ascendant situation, whether it be like you know, a Xerath or something like that you could work with. So it's so cool that you guys have left that door open for us in a way that like maybe something could be coming down the line.
Yeah. Yeah, really well said. And
Yeah.
I love that the Sun Disk is just Shuriman fully. You know, like when I think of all the landmarks, I think of, you know, the Targon, like Mount Targon is like the one big landmark from Targon. But that card is kind of busted in weird ways, like very memeish, but kind of can go everywhere. I love that Shuriman is like, this is the heart of this region right here. And it's just, it's thematically perfect. It really does feel like, I don't know if you've ever played like any of the Star Wars games, but it feels like a trench run almost, like where it's kind of like this countdown effect where I'm looking, I got to blow up the Death Star, I got to blow up the Death Star, and then, you know, I win. Well, this is like, I got to praise the sun or whatever streamings do, and then I win. It's great. I love that
Yeah.
vibe it gives. Is
You
perfect.
do gotta praise the sun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, perfect. I think we covered everything. The only keyword we didn't cover is predict. We haven't gotten a whole lot of predict cards yet. You know, we might have more coming, but we have currently a couple. And one of my favorite cards in the whole set is Kiari the Student and the Returned. I think it's awesome. Do you want to just touch on predict real quick, where that came from?
Sure, yeah. Yeah, predict was kind of it was kind of both from the top down and bottom up, to use jargon. Like basically, we were excited for the time theme, and deck manipulation felt very fitting for that.
Yeah.
And also, we were nervous about letting Shurima have too much card draw and card advantage because of some of the things we were talking about regarding like the board getting cluttered with landmarks and stuff like that. And also just like anytime we could, we were looking for opportunities to feel like Shurima can thrive in ways that use resources that other regions don't appreciate. And so instead of being a region that's about mana ramp and card draw, it was like we're going to be a region about card draw and sorry, region about countdown and deck manipulation. It's like I don't need to draw that many cards. I know how to make do with the cards that are already, you know, just the top card of my deck. I can make good. And there's I think you got a taste of some of the combos for predict in this set. But yeah, you're right that like a lot of the fun predict cards are actually still coming. So like keep an eye open if you like the predict mechanic. There's fun stuff on the horizon.
Sweet.
And yeah, like I think one of the reasons we were excited to get predict in this initial release was basically actually we just wanted to make sure that Shurima was um, like well functional and fun to build with for a variety of archetypes and connections with other regions. I think we were a little nervous about excluding, like we talked about maybe saving predict for a future expansion basically, but I think, you know, sort of given the fact that we were starting with landmarks, I was kind of the opinion that like to keep this fully functional, let's also give them the consistency tool, because, you know, drawing your countdown cards really late or drawing a champion that your deck's all about really late, you know, kind of sucks. And we want to make sure that they have enough generic tools like predict and hourglass and stuff like that to feel like, you know, this is a region worth splashing into and building on, and, you know, limited and stuff like that.
Yeah, very well said. I can't wait to build with so many more decks. Got to go nuts. Mike, you want to take the first of these closing questions? You're almost through, Mark. I appreciate it.
No problem.
So what of the reactions that have come from the community have you been most surprised about during the reveal this season, or even just like top 3?
I mean, it's kind of I mean, my first reaction to that is basically like all of them in a way, because like I've been working on these cards on and off for so long, and I'm so used to thinking them as like this kind of this never-ending to-do list of things to like make better and revise and stuff. And so to actually see people react to the real cards and play with the real cards, whether it's positive or negative, is like often just like it's just wild to watch it. And you know, things that, you know, we were really alarmed by, some players aren't alarmed by, and you know, players are alarmed by some things that we didn't anticipate. And so like, yeah, I don't know, it's like you know, the spoiler season, like I think I was pleasantly surprised by a lot of the reactions, and then you know, and then was surprised by some of the LeBlanc reactions on Reddit and Twitch, and then, you know, I don't know, it's sort of like this might sound weird, but it's like once you kind of put down the set and you're just working on polish and bug fixing, you kind of get in this mindset of like you're only talking about problems, basically. It's like, what's the bug thing? What's the thing that people are complaining about in playtests, etc. Like, you're not looking at opportunity spaces as much anymore. And
Yeah.
so kind of just getting reminded, like, oh, the set is fun. All that work you did, all that time back, like, it actually is paying off, and people actually have a lot of fun with it. To me, that's like still a wild feeling. Yeah, that's just really cool.
That's awesome. I'm super. So, I'm sure you have so many different things that you're excited for people to get their hands on first. Mine is definitely just the old archetype love, like the Undying love we were talking about earlier. I am beyond excited that Undying has so many new toys. So that is,
Hmm.
beyond exciting to me. But is there anything like in your mind that you're just really hyped for someone just to try for that first time? Is it just leveling up to level 3, or is it something else? What is like the number one moment you're looking forward to?
Um, I mean, yeah, the level 3 would definitely be up there. I mean, that one, yeah, just like with the new cinematic level up animations, and just like how crazy the cards are when they hit the level 3, and like, your Nexus becoming a Sun Disc, and a zero place in your deck and all that. Like, we invested a lot in hoping that would be a really big, cool moment for players, and so yeah, I hope that pays off. And then yeah, we try to splash some other ones like Watcher and stuff like that. But yeah, I would say level 3 was the big one where it's like I really hope players have a lot of fun experiencing this for the first time, and,
Yeah,
and also after the first time, of course.
for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that the fact like that you guys, I'm not gonna lie, I kind of got a little choked up when I saw a new elite champion. It sounds funny, but like I genuinely was like, elites to me were like my deck identity. Like I love
Mm.
Demacia, I loved
Yeah, yeah.
elites, and seeing that new champion, it got a little choked up. I got excited. I was happy. I was excited to play more and more of the game, and for Jarvan to come out and to like Shane said, love to the old archetypes, because
Mm.
that was the foundation that made me want to play this game so bad. I remember when we were making the podcast, we were talking about things. I'm like, oh, dude, I'm gonna make a Garen deck. It's gonna be elites. It's gonna be awesome. So just seeing that like come back really, because you were saying you want to see players experience these things. Like I just that's my biggest experience with it. Um,
It's
but
awesome. Yeah.
and the second one for me is dragons. People on the show, like in their
Mm.
Discord, know that like I'm a huge dragon fan. I fangirled all over it. So this kind of leads to my next question of, are you able to like actually get good sleep at night knowing that Dragon Chow is allowed to, like, it's printed, it's out
Hmm.
there, it's a thing,
Yeah,
people are going, that thing's gonna die,
That thing is gonna
and
it's
it's
die.
true.
little, it's like this cute little baby elephant thing. I couldn't show my
Yeah.
girlfriend it because she's an elephant fan. I'm
Yeah.
serious.
I should have included that in the surprise ones. I mean, yeah. I think we knew it was kind of a tragic card, but yeah, I think players got really attached to it real fast.
Very fast, yeah.
I can understand that. I mean, I like to. Um, I'm not in charge of narrative and theme stuff, obviously, but I like to imagine that this is kind of a Professor Von Yip situation where it's like, the Professor Von Yip, like the twist is that the professor is the cat, not the guy in the picture, right?
Mm.
And I think the twist on Dragon Chow is that the Dragon Chow is actually the snail sitting next to it on the rock, and that
Ah,
the elephant critter is actually totally fine. That's what I like to imagine.
I like that.
Yeah. If you look at the art, it's like elephant, butterflies, but then if you look a little to the right, there's a snail
There's
there.
a
So I'm
snail
like,
down there.
Dragon's going for that snail. Dragons love that snail.
To
So
me,
that's what happened.
to me, Dragon Chow is like 100% like the Swole Squirrel from last time, where Swole Squirrel came out, everyone was like
Oh yeah.
losing their minds, and then Dragon Chow
Yeah.
came out. I instantly saw someone edit the art to remove the dragon
Oh
from the art.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I
Yeah, I
was
saw a
like,
video of someone did that where it goes
"Yup."
away and like a song is playing. Yeah,
Like, wow.
yeah.
Wow, you guys are not messing around. They're saving this poor elephant thing, dude.
Yeah.
Twitter
Oh my
came to
god.
that elephant's defense.
They
Yep.
did. It's a
Very
noble
quickly.
cause. Yeah.
Fantastic. Mark, I really
Yeah.
appreciate you taking your time to come out here and talk to us. I know the community is beyond excited to listen to this episode as well, so really, really appreciate it so much.
Well, thank you. It's my pleasure. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, man. Mike, any last words here for the Dragon Show?
You rip for the Dragon Chow. F's
Rip.
in chat.
Rip the
Yeah,
Dragon
yeah,
Show.
yeah.
Honestly, from the bottom of my heart, thank you for the elite love. I genuinely appreciate it. I'm not kidding.
Yeah. A lot of that was Noah Seltzer, actually. He was the one who was trying to juice up things with more elite. So yeah, if you get a chance to meet him, default char. Yeah.
Yeah, you can tweet at him and say, thank you for Daddy Jarvan. Okay, thank you
Yeah.
for King Jarvan. Mark, I appreciate it. Have a good rest of your night, buddy.
Thanks
Appreciate
again. You too. Take it easy.
Take care.